This is What If I Told You, the event psychology video podcast for event professionals, in which Victoria Mady, event consultant and host, talks with the world's top minds in behavioral science, neuroscience, and psychology on how to transform events using insights about human behavior and mind.
Hello, I'm Victoria Mady, and this is What If I Told You, the Event Psychology podcast, where I talk all things event psychology, and this is about how to apply brain science insights in events. And today my guest is Eric Antonisse, CEO at Micemedia. And Micemedia is a consultancy firm that works with international associations and corporates to provide management of their events. And Eric has over 3 decades in the mice industry, which is amazing. And he built expert knowledge in production, audio, video, IT, and multimedia services, as well as large-scale event management. And with that huge expertise, Eric as well is a person behind Neuroshaping, a brain design technique that increases the impact of any event by delivering better and longer lasting value to the delegates. And we recently connected over the event psychology subject, and Eric enlightened me on a few interesting things, which I hope we can talk about today. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming to the show. I'm excited about, all the things that we are going to talk about. But first, before we deep dive into the subject, I've got a couple of questions for you. So first, what is one thing that you like about events?
What I like about events is that there's only one chance. There's only one chance to get it right, because there are no seconds.
Right.
And that's the thing I really like in events, that makes us very aware of how meticulous you have to be in the planning, but also how of a forecast you must have to view in your head what will be the end result and how that should be.
So it's
one time only, one shot only.
Right. So it's all about strategic vision.
Yeah. I think it's very important that before you start with any event, that you exactly know what the end result should be. So, because that's what makes or breaks an event. And not looking simply at details sometimes. People say, those are details. They break events, and that's something you don't want. So.
I so much agree. It's all about small details, tiny details that make all the difference, right? Yeah. Okay, then what is one thing that you hate about events?
Yeah, that's the dismantling, for sure.
Okay.
You have to know I started out as an audio engineer in the late 80s. So one of the things that was always like a downer was having a great concert where your mix is really good, and then last song, audience goes home, and then you are in this empty hall with all that equipment that still has to go out. But nowadays, I'm doing, of course, the consultancy in large-scale events. But still, I have that you're working so hard for so many months to prepare something that is over within 2 or 3 days, or maybe even it's a couple of hours. That also happens. And then you get this, I mean, as men, we don't have the baby blues, but I guess that's the baby blues, that it's over. Audience has the final, they applaud, and then they go home. And then you are that feeling that, wow, what did we achieve here? What fantastic. And you're basically feeling a bit sad because it's over. All of a sudden, you had all this tension, and all of a sudden, poof, it's gone. But there's your achievement. There's your result.
Right.
And then you have Now not anymore, but and then for a lot of people the dismantling starts.
Right.
And that's why you just come crashing down to earth in the reality. So that's definitely what I hate about events.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I believe, it's a whole range of emotions that the event planner or event professional feels throughout the, event planning cycle, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, okay, then actually, can you tell us what you do and what your company does?
Yeah.
So you mentioned already that it's more like on the consultancy side.
Yeah, we are consultants. We are based. Micemedia is based in the Netherlands and in France, but we work with international clients. Typically, they're also the owner of the events, so like associations, for instance. And we do a lot with large medical congresses, as well as a few corporates that we have as a client. The tasks that we do have grown over the years, but the core has always been technology. So we assist our clients in organizing their congress from the technical side. So everything that has a plug from the sound system to the projection to the online meeting to anywhere, that's what we do. But we do it from A to Z. So really from the event design or the event architecture, as we call it, all the way through to that last applause before the people come home, or go home. So, yeah.
How did you come to practice neuroshaping philosophy?
Neuroshaping, the origins of neuroshaping goes back to when I was a sound engineer, actually, because like you said just now is very true that in events there are a lot of emotions that you are going through, not only as a delegate but also as an organizer or as a technician even. And I always cherished this because if you work in events, there is no place to hide. You have very high highs and very low lows, and the stress, the pressure that we have to work with does not allow you to cheat and to laugh while you're actually crying. So that's something that I really cherish. But in my work as a sound engineer, this is really tied into the songs that were played by the artists that I did over the years, and there were some fixed bands that I worked with, but I did a lot of different music. I did classical recordings in mobile studios. I did concerts, both really like rock concerts, but also like prom concerts with a full philharmonic orchestra. But all what they had in common was that emotion, the vibes that go with a certain song, and that's really triggered my interest in a specific item of how is sound linked to emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And this came back when I started Micemedia in 2013 in another form where more and more over the years we were asked to also collaborate in the design of the event. And that took me back to my years as a sound engineer, like, but then what if we are going to design around the senses? Because we know what certain light colors do and what certain sounds do. And that's where I had the idea of neuroshaping.
Okay, so can you also explain what it is about and what are the key components of neuroshaping model?
Yeah, neuroshaping it can actually be defined of methods that we have that have a demonstrable and long-lasting influence on the brain. Mm-hmm. In order to change the state that you are in, that makes your experience better. It ensures that what you hear you'll remember longer, and you learn faster. So by designing something around the senses, because that's exactly what neuroshaping is, you put people in a certain state where they are more susceptible and where the information that they get will last longer in their brains. Now, this is actually the holy grail of delegate experience, because the return on investment also for a delegate is enormously important, both in terms of the if you have a congress, like a medical congress, then the learning outcomes have to be as high as possible, but also maybe the social outcome. And also there you can use neuroshaping. So it is a toolbox that you can use to influence the state of people.
Right. So, and I understand that sound is one of the key elements in that process, in that design technique, right? And so I looked it up because you were the first person to tell me about psychoacoustics, and I didn't know about that before. And this is amazing field of knowledge. And I mean, of course, you can go as deep as you want into that particular field, but if, like, when you are starting and when you are learning about what it is and how it can be applied in events, so what it is, can you just explain in simple terms to those who are like me and learning about it for the first time? So what is psychoacoustics, and how can event professionals take advantage of it for their events?
Psychoacoustics is a science that researches how sound influences the brain and your emotions. And I got hugely interested in this when I was trained as a sound engineer. So I had my education, and in that education was a certain part of psychoacoustics. And as a already operating sound engineer, I also had, of course, the chance to test some theories in practice, which maybe is a bit mean, but sound can influence your state dramatically. A very good example is what I said, like just music, because music is a composition of a lot of sounds together. But also certain frequencies, we know that people respond to those. For instance, if you have like very low frequencies that are just not audible, around 60 hertz, 50 hertz, between 40 and 80 hertz. These frequencies boost a feeling of power if you are in an environment where you have that frequency present. Whilst the more middle high-end frequencies, like the 4 kilohertz, 3 kilohertz, that's really the mean, nasty, like phone sound. And these typically alert the brain and can even cause like aggressive emotions if you have too much of them. So knowing this and having all the sound equipment to my disposal, and all like an audience, so I could test certain things, and it is I really found out firsthand that it works. But
that's
also,
amazing.
it is truly. But then it goes further, because there's, for instance, an app called Sonic Tonic.
Okay.
Now this is, they work with soundscaping, so they, instead of a landscape, they scape a soundscape. And but they use certain frequencies and certain known influences to compose and make certain music to influence for relaxation, to influence for more alertness. So your brain is open to learning. And it's fantastic, actually.
So you can use that to to make participants feel certain emotions and get them into specific mood or specific state of mind by using sound, right? If you want them to learn and to focus at a specific moment in time at the event, you can use that technique to actually make it work for them better, right?
Yeah, it's very, very, very powerful. Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, on a regular level, I can totally, and I guess everyone can totally relate, because we all know that, for example, music can trigger certain memories, right?
Yeah,
we can use music to relax or to get oneself energetic, right? So that's totally understandable and kind of known to everyone. But when we go deeper and when we can basically change the state of mind with some specific sounds generated, right, engineered during the event, that's completely different level.
Yeah. There's actually when you envision just an event and so let's say a congress and people are they enter the registration, and in that registration area you work with sound to just create a nice welcome feeling. This is totally possible,
right?
But then there are certain things that you have to take into account, because it's in the registration area, people are talking, so you should not use frequencies that are in speech area, because
right.
You don't want to harass anyone with noise that is too loud. So what you'll probably find is a bit laid back soundscape with a lot of low end frequencies to have that people feel good emotion, and still enough space in all the frequencies for people to talk and to enter the venue without any problems. So yeah.
So do you need some specific equipment for that?
No, other than a sound system that can replay what you want. No. Because if you have, for instance, you have a room where you have a game show and you want to do a very, they have to vote for a candidate, for instance, and then you have a very deep, laid-back rumble thing to have the tension going,
Right.
But there, you should not do this over ceiling speakers, because they just cannot touch their frequency. So you need an adequate sound system.
And obviously, you need a professional who knows how it works.
Yeah.
And,
but also, you can do so many beautiful things and in rooms as well, because also we are very, and that's also one of the beauties of how we hear direction in sound. But you can also surprise audience by having sound coming from another direction. But they will immediately look over their shoulder.
Right.
Immediately. Yeah.
And so, okay, so you shared this example, the registration error, where you can use that technique. Are there any other examples that you can share about how and where psychoacoustics can work in an event setting?
Yeah,
or maybe something that you produced, you did, you engineered, and how did it go?
Yeah, there's one example that I would like to mention in any case, and I'll come to another one after that. That really shows the power. But there is the Association of Cardiology, ESC, it is called. They have a European Congress every year, which is around 30,000 delegates. And to my surprise, they started with soundscaping in their Congress. In 2018, I think they started. I saw it in 2019. But what they are doing is they had a company create music specifically for them, and they in pre-designated areas like the registration, but also in like maybe I don't know exactly, but let's say the poster areas, say the European village or the World Village. There they had also that music playing, music that was present, but present like wallpaper, not as like too loud. I mean, but what they want to achieve over the years is that music, as soon as people hear it, they know, I'm at the Cardiology Congress.
Right.
They want to create that feel good, that anchor, that yes, we're back. So, and I was very impressed with how they were going about. And this is also the first one that I have seen that is using this technology. So I was really
love this example. I love it.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's very smart way of implanting the memories about the event, because we usually use visual sense, right, mostly, but then other senses like smell or hearing, they are very powerful, right? And that's a very different way of engaging the audience and making them remember about your event.
That's and you can do that in many ways, but we used in practice Neuroshaping in real 2018 on an EACTS Congress. That's a congress from the European Association of Cardiothoracic Society, and they had a new part in the program which was called the Lion's Den. Now, if you know a congress setup, it's very classical. You have the stage, you have the podium, you have the top table. How to create tension with the Lion's Den, where 3 candidates are giving very short 5-minute presentations. They have to then they are competing, because then the jury will select the best one and the audience. So, and then together the votes will decide the winner. Now, but how do you, in a almost scientific environment like that, how do you create tension? So there we pulled the Neuroshaping toolbox, and we went to work with lighting and setup. But with room changeovers being very short, you have to be, with simple things, you need to achieve a lot. So there we said, okay, normally the presenter is behind the podium and then presenting, and now we're going to put him in front of the stage, facing the jurors on stage. And with a camera, we caught the face of the presenter that was with his back to the audience. So he was presenting to the jury, and he saw himself on this big screen now, or he or she. But that's quite impressive. Then we worked with lighting to then get the room dark. The moment that they're presenting, it's only them that you can see. So you get this really focused atmosphere. And there we used jingles for the walk-on, and we used music when people were changing, and we used music during the voting. And these music that were actually soundscapes, they were so powerful that on the day that we did a rehearsal, the client said, okay, we need to take some things out because this is getting too creepy. So the impact in the end was so real for people. There was music with a very high chase, like with instruments like congas, but also then with sounds that were very echoey. So you had this idea that you were in a very large, dark room where you were chased by who knows what. So that's how powerful it can be. Now, this is definitely, this was designed to create a feeling of tension.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But you can design it also to create feelings of euphoria, like victory. It's that's also possible. And maybe as an example, because there's somebody who uses this in a very powerful way. That's Anthony Robbins. He's like a coach, a feel-good guru. He's, especially in the US, he's very, very famous. I think he even has his own island and helicopter, and he did quite well. But I have to say, his shows are. I was fascinated because the way he uses lights, projection, and even his microphone is impressive, because you know these headset microphones.
Yes.
If you talk like this, they have it's a nice sound that they produce. It's natural. But then, as he wants to really get something into people's heads, he pushes the microphone close, and what happens is this. Then all of a sudden you hear this huge, big voice that's so enormously deep. Now, anything he says, I mean, that sticks for years.
Exactly.
And this is it's a beautiful example of how you can use very simple techniques to basically imprint things in people's brain. I mean, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, you know, what I love about science insights is that in most cases they don't require those tools. They do not require a lot of money or a lot of other resources. They are low cost. It's just what it takes is the knowledge, right? You need to know how it works on the brain level, what it makes people do, what kind of things it triggers, right? And then the impact is so big, so strong that it cannot really compare to any other tools that we have, right? Because it kind of influences the brain directly.
Yeah.
And I guess this is a beautiful example of that, right? And I've got so many questions still, because it's an amazing area of knowledge, I believe. But
it is.
What would you recommend to read, for example, to those who, again, like me, are just learning about this field of knowledge and they just want to, get familiar with the topic? Are there any resources that you would recommend?
Yeah, I would definitely look into just general neurology and psychology, changing state of mind. I mean, if you Google this, you'll hit definitely a lot of things. Yes. Because the thing is, it's not one thing. It's just a combination. But already you can think for yourself, like, if you listen to something, like, how does this make me feel? Why? Is there an explanation for this? I mean, that's where you start to ask questions and you start to look. But there are so many things out there. There's a science of colors, how people react to colors. So that's something that you could look into. There's the psychoacoustics, of course, but there's also, very simply, and this everybody knows in events, there's the storytelling. But when you ask people, like, but why is storytelling so powerful? Often they don't know. But what it does, it puts you in a state where you not only are listening to a story, but it opens up parts in your brain that associate with the story, whatever happens in the story. If somebody's talking about that it was so freezing cold, you start feeling cold. That's the power of storytelling. But I would look into those topics, because in the end, neuroshaping is just a huge toolbox with all these all these separate things in there. But because it was so dispersed, I felt it was really necessary to create that Neuroshaping toolbox. A last one that is really nice to mention as a technique is the font sans forgetica. It's amazing. It was developed on a university by a professor and its students to have a better learning experience. In other words, learn more and learn faster and remember longer.
Right.
And they developed this font that is actually taking out pieces of the letter. So you have to look at the sentence, and then you have to make it's sort of a puzzle for each letter. Like what letter is this exactly? Because there are pieces missing. So your brain has to really work to form that sentence, and that makes that you remember things longer. So it's really interesting.
That's amazing. I should really look it up, and I love the name, by the way, the font name. That's great. And I want to come back to one very important point that you make, that you really those are simple things, but you really need to know how it is connected and how it plays out on a brain level. I mean, if we are talking about storytelling or sounds or lights, it's not enough just to know that it works, because then you don't have all the tools in your arsenal, right? You just know that it does something, but when you learn about why it works, then you are going much deeper, and then you're able to have much stronger influence with your work, because you can apply some nuances at the times, at the moments where it really matters, rather than just applying it sporadically and without any understanding of how it really works on a brain level.
Yeah, or to complement that, we actually have neuroshaping goggles, because not only is it that we look at an event with a different pair of glasses, because you're looking at it from a senses, from a emotion kind of way, like what do you want the outcome to be there? So that drives the design. But then also we had like this client who was in the Louvre in Paris, and they have some Congress rooms underneath, and there's this room where you have that goes down in there's tiered seating. So, and then you have this big oval at the bottom where you could put an audience that can look at a screen, but we did it the other way around. We said, why not use at the bottom as a stage? Because there was a big stage on that side, but we decided to have a screen there, but not use the stage. Now the client was a bit confused, and also we were talking about the room being brown, because it's really old. It's also in the minus 1, 2, or 2 level, so it no windows, nothing. And it was really, not only the room is dark in color, but it also felt a bit like dark. So what do you do with a room like this to make people feel welcome when they walk in already? So what we did is we put the stage at the bottom, so actually people were looking down on the presenters, and we used white chairs in the rows, so any lighting would be reflected in a true color. We made aisles with white carpet that were also like individually lit, so you could change colors as well. And we had underneath the stage, we had like a LED screen where they walked on that actually was interacting with the presenter as well. Now, sadly, this event had never taken place, but in the end, but in the design, we had it in 3D. We went to the Louvre, we met the client there, he saw the room empty, And afterwards, we went to a meeting room besides it, and we put it on the goggles. He was standing on the stage in the room, and he was seeing the lighting, hearing the sound, seeing the lighting moving, and creating different atmospheres by changing lighting, etc. Now, this is what I meant earlier, that you always have to start with the end in mind. Mm-hmm. And the more detailed you plan for it, the better you'll hit the bullseye with what you want to reach.
Absolutely. Well, that's a great point, and I think we can talk like for hours about that, because it's really interesting, fascinating topic. Let me ask you a couple of final questions, and these are more like fun questions, but maybe not so fun, but I mean, anyway, it's more like general questions that I have. So what, in your opinion, what's one behavioral science insight that you think event professionals should apply right away, like immediately?
Well, behavioral science...
I mean, not only behavioral science, but maybe psychology, neuroscience, everything that we can unite under the brain science term.
So take a look at your event and take a look with your senses and see, in particular, how you can surprise and delight attendees. Because if we were just talking about the registration, but if you go to an event and you often have these long walkways before you are at the registration, because these Congress centers are so huge. Mm-hmm. So what if the path is marked by, and not like a full row, but every like 10 meters, a sunflower. Mm-hmm. It's a very simple thing. Exactly. But you are like, okay, nice. So even before you are in, you're already changing your state.
Delight your senses.
Exactly. And it can be so simple, but just look at it with a different pair of eyes.
I love it. Delight attendee senses. That's great. And my other question would be, so the video podcast, my video podcast title is "What If I Told You?" And so how would you complete this sentence with one takeaway from our conversation? What if I told you
that we found the holy grail of delegate experience?
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Eric. I love all those insights. Thank you so much for coming and for sharing those insights. I encourage everyone to check out Eric's website and connect on LinkedIn, of course. And I will have all the links we mentioned in the show notes as well. Thank you for listening to What If I Told You, the Event Psychology podcast. I'm Victoria Matey, and for more brain science insights and this episode recap, I invite you to join the Event Psychology Club. Until next time, bye-bye.